In this video, we are going to explore PTE Core reading, especially how one tiny distortion turns a correct idea into a completely wrong answer. So today, I don't want to teach you reading. I don't want to teach multiple choice, fill in the blanks, or reorder paragraphs. Instead, I want to introduce you to someone, a very dangerous character, a character responsible for thousands of lost PT Core reading marks every year. A character so clever that most students never realize they have been fooled. Who's the character? A wrong answer. Not just any wrong answer. A wrong answer that once started as a perfectly innocent idea inside the passage. Because here is the shocking truth: most wrong answers are not born wrong. They begin their lives as correct information. Then something happens. A word changes. An idea gets stretched. A detail gets twisted. A relationship gets reversed. And suddenly, a correct statement transforms into a trap. Today, we are going to follow the entire life story of several wrong answers. You will watch them grow from truth into deception. And once you see this process, you will never look at reading answer choices the same way again. Okay? So let's look at the case file 1. The wrong answer that became too confident. Let's start with the passage. If you want, you can also pause the video and you can read the small passage. Researchers studying urban green spaces found that access to parks and community gardens may contribute to improved mental well being among residents. Although the study identified a positive association, the researchers cautioned that additional factors, including income levels, social support networks, and access to healthcare, could also influence psychological health. Consequently, the findings should not be interpreted as evidence that green spaces alone determine mental well being. And here the question is, according to the passage, what conclusion did the researchers reach? You have four options here. Option A, access to green spaces may contribute to improved mental well being. Option B, green spaces are the primary cause of improved mental health. Option C, mental well being depends entirely on environmental factors. And the final option, community gardens eliminate psychological health problems. Now, most students correctly choose option A. But today, we are not interested in the correct answer. We are interested in option B. Let's investigate its life story. Okay? Where did option B come from? Look at the passage. Researchers found a positive association between green spaces and mental well being. That part is true. The answer writer did not invent this, they borrowed it from the passage. So far, everything is legal, everything is accurate, everything is innocent. Then the answer writer changes one thing here. The passage says may contribute. The wrong answer says are the primary cause. Look at the transformation. May contribute, primary cause. A possibility becomes certainty here. A contributing factor becomes the main factor here. A cautious statement becomes a confident declaration. The wrong answer has started growing. Okay? Now the distortion becomes larger. The passage explicitly says other factors may influence mental well being. The wrong answer ignores this information completely. Instead of accepting multiple causes, it secretly promotes one cause above all others. The answer is becoming more extreme. Now, the wrong answer reached its final form. Green spaces are the primary cause of improved mental health. At first glance, green spaces appear in passage, mental health appears in passage, improved appears in passage. Everything feels familiar, but the relationship between these ideas has been completely rewritten. And that is why thousands of students choose it, not because they cannot read, because familiarity creates an illusion of correctness. Okay? So, the lesson that you should learn from this case file is wrong answers rarely attack, they impersonate, they disguise themselves as correct answers. Now let's move on to the case file 2, the wrong answer that stole a word. Look at this passage here. While artificial intelligence has increased efficiency in many industries, several experts argue that excessive dependence on automated systems may reduce opportunities for employees to develop critical problem solving skills. Nevertheless, most researchers agree that AI is likely to remain an important component of future workplaces. Now, let's move on to the question here. What concern do some experts express regarding artificial intelligence? You have four options here. You can just pause the video, go through all the four options. Again, we are not studying option A. We are going to study option B because option A is the right option. Okay. So let's look at the birth from the passage. May reduce opportunities. Okay. Wrong answer will completely replace. Notice what happened here. The word may has disappeared in option B. Correct? And the words will completely arrived here. You can notice the difference, right? So this is one of the most common evolutions of a wrong answer. It steals uncertainty, then replaces it with certainty. You can see the transformation chart. The passage says may, wrong answer says here will. Got it? And the passage says reduce opportunities, but the wrong answer says completely replace. So passage says some experts, but here this option says universal outcome. The answer did not create a new idea, it exaggerated an existing one. Got it? Now let's move on to the case file 3, the wrong answer that reversed direction. Now look at this passage. A recent transportation survey found that residents who used public transit frequently reported lower commuting costs than those who relied primarily on private vehicles. However, participants also noted that public transport schedules were sometimes less flexible than personal transportation options. And the question here is, what did the survey reveal? You have four options again. Kindly go through all the four options. Okay. Now let's examine option B. Let's look at the birth. The original sentence, if you see the passage, public transit users reported lower cost. But here, if you say private vehicle users generally reported lower commuting cost. Okay. Look carefully. Only one thing changed. The direction. Cause and effect remained. Structure remained. Vocabulary remained. Everything remained except the relationship. Now, this is the most dangerous category because the sentence looks almost identical. The exam writer simply swaps the positions, right? Original option A is greater than B, but if you see the wrong answer, B is more greater than A. So you should recognize keywords. The examiner checks for the relationships. That difference creates the trap here. So most of you may think I got the question wrong, but that's not what happened. What actually happened is you witnessed the final version of a wrong answer. You never saw its history. You never saw how it evolved. You never saw the tiny changes that transformed truth into a deception. Okay, the moment you start asking, where did this answer come from? Instead of which answer feels right, your reading accuracy changes dramatically because every wrong answer has a family tree. Every wrong answer has an origin story. Every wrong answer leaves fingerprints. The students who learn to trace those fingerprints become extremely difficult to fool. Okay, so from today onward, don't ask why is the correct answer correct. Ask how did the wrong answer become wrong. That single shift in thinking will teach you more about PTE core reading than hundreds of practice questions because the real secret of reading is not finding the right answer. It's understanding the life story of the wrong one. And once you can see that story, the traps stop being invisible. That's all for today's video. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more PTE core tips. See you in the next video. Bye bye.